What's going on, guys? It's Eddie with DIY Basics. Today I want to go over tile trowels and the most common ones used in the industry and where they're applicable. So let's start off with this small one here. This is a 1/8 by 1/8. It's mostly used for like membranes. If you follow a lot of construction projects, you'll see them being used on like a lot of the Schluter products, installing the membranes on the shower pans or on the walls. And it's basically 1/8 by 1/8, meaning it's 1/8 wide and 1/8 deep. Next one here is going to be the V-notch. It's 1/4 by 3/16, and so it's going to be 1/4 inch wide by 3/16 deep. And this one, I mostly use it for small tile. You know, if I'm installing like a small backsplash, very small 1-inch mosaics, or you can even go up to about 3-4 inches with it, especially on a wall application for a backsplash, where obviously the importance of these trowels is to obtain as much coverage as you can on the back of the tile. But at the same time, I always like to make sure that I'm not using too much thin set or adhesive, because I don't want the thin set to seep through the joints and just make a big mess of the job. So I'm always big on doing clean installations, and so I like to be very accurate when it comes to using my trowels and making sure that I'm not overdoing it. Depending on the size of the trowel, if you go with like, you know, 1/4 inch by 3/8 trowel, you're exaggerating a little bit. It's not necessary. Again, if it's going to be a floor application where you're standing on the tile, and obviously you want to make sure you have good coverage and you have good support under that tile so it doesn't pop with any voids under it when it's walked on. So moving on, we have the 1/4 by 1/4. This one, this is my go-to whenever I use mosaics on a shower floor or something like that. It's almost just right for giving you the right amount of coverage, while not, like I said, while not being too much where it becomes a big nightmare of a job to clean up everything between the joints. Allows you to get a much better installation. Now we're getting into the bigger tile here. Like I said, this could be used, I would say, the 1/4 by 1/4, I would say you can use it, you know, going all the way up to 6, maybe even 8 inches if you're working on a real flat surface. Because the other things you have to take into consideration is if you're working with a surface that maybe has a lot of divots or a lot of, you know, holes or things like that, then, you know, the bigger the trowel size, the more it's going to fill in those voids and give you the support that you need. The 1/4 inch by 3/8, which is what I'm holding up here, this was my go-to for the 12 by 12 tile way back in the day when I was doing a lot of floors and stuff. This was my go-to for 12 by 12 tile. Never had any problems with it, you know. And then when you get into a lot of these bigger tiles today, you definitely want to use a 1/2 inch by 1/2 inch, and that's, I mean, the industry calls for anything that is more than 15 inches in one direction is considered a large format tile. And in that case, you want to be using a minimum of a 1/2 inch by 1/2 inch trowel for what's considered a large format tile. The other thing I wanted to discuss, sometimes you need to build up. Obviously, cement thin set isn't really made to build up. You obviously want to, whatever you have to do to your substrate to get it up to where you need is very important. But a lot of times when you're dealing with transitions between two different floor levels, you might be going from a floor to a shower pan, and a lot of these installs today where it's like curbless and it's seamless across the entire floor. A lot of times there's going to be a little bit of a difference in height there. It could be anywhere from 1/8 to 1/4 or whatever it might be. A lot of people don't know that the way you can gauge how much thin set you need in order to increase the height underneath. If you're going with a 1/4 inch trowel, the thin set's going to collapse to half of that dimension. So a 1/4 inch is going to ultimately turn into 1/8 once it's collapsed, once you actually install the tile. If it's a 3/8 trowel, then that's going to collapse to 3/16, you know. And then if it's a 1/2 inch trowel, obviously it's going to collapse to a 1/4 inch. So that's very good information to have if you're looking to build up from one transition to the other. And let's just say you're off by a 1/4 inch, right? So if you're off by a 1/4 inch from one side to the other, then what you want to do is you want to place your thin set on the floor, and then what you do is you'll back butter the tile with another 1/2 inch of thin set. When you put those two together, it's going to give you that increased 1/4 inch of thin set that you're going to need to come within plane of that next surface. All right, so that's something to keep in mind. Like I said, it's minimal height differences. You don't want to be using thin set for anything greater than like 3/4, I would say, because there are medium bed mortars out there that are used for thicker applications, and I believe they have a maximum of like 3/4 of an inch that it's recommended you use. So I would keep it within those parameters just to make sure that you don't have a failed installation. All right, guys. I hope this helped, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Thanks.